always something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
And let's step right into it live from the shadow of Detroit here in the heart of America, kicking off another brand new broadcast. Excellent day here at the Steve Gruber Show, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. It's what we do every day. We fight for you. Lots of work to do today, so let's get right to it. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, President Trump saying again in the Oval Office Monday that he is willing to meet with Venezuela's dictator to discuss an end to the drug cartels and the killing of drug runners. It may be a big first step. Number two, the judge of the James Comey case says federal prosecutors must turn over the grand jury records in the case. We'll see if that happens or if the government files an immediate appeal. I'd guess on the latter. And number three, just like I told you yesterday, this whole Democrat narrative trying to slime President Trump with the disgraced pedophile and child trafficker Jeffrey Epstein is once again falling apart in spectacular fashion. In fact, yesterday, House Republicans released a memo detailing all the ways that Democrats have schemed to make this another Get Trump scam. We already know that Democrats selectively leaked 3 emails out of the roughly 23,000 documents handed over by the Epstein estate recently, making redactions that confuse the American public, like taking out the name of Virginia Giuffre and her accusations against Prince Andrew and others. Republicans are also accusing Democrats in the memo of leaking pages of Epstein's infamous birthday book that include Trump, but not publishing messages written by Bill Clinton and other high-profile individuals at the same time, refusing to help bring in the Clintons for questioning by the Oversight Committee, both of whom have been issued subpoenas. As a reminder, the House will vote today on releasing the rest of the DOJ's files on Epstein, and on Sunday, Trump encouraged House Republicans to vote for the release, arguing that we just need to get over this and done with it so we can move on. We'll keep our eyes on this development, but today I want to make it crystal clear what it means to be a conservative in America, at least for me. I don't need the left to put words in my mouth, and I certainly don't need rhinos to speak for me. So I'm going to give you a list of what I believe. Number one, I believe America should never depend on another nation for energy, protection, or basic supply and demand needs. We're strongest when we build, produce, and protect things right here in the USA. I call this America First, of course. I like what I'm seeing on the front as a result of the Trump administration. And Energy Secretary Chris Wright says it's because of Donald Trump and he doesn't deserve special interests. Listen to this.
100% of Americans are better off when energy prices are lower. 1% of Americans produce oil and gas. So they're better off if oil and gas prices are higher, but the other 99% are better off when they're lower. That's what makes people's lives better. That's what makes our industry more competitive. That's what makes our military able to train more and be more lethal. So President Trump has a very simple difference in his agenda. He's not like, well, his constituency is this industry and that industry and these NGOs and this group. He's worried about appeasing all of them. He doesn't even think that way. He has one constituency, the American people. That's it.
I believe, like the Secretary of Energy there, I believe America must put itself first, always. We cannot pour from an empty cup. Our country should prioritize our own people and citizens before trying to save the world. Vice President J.D. Vance comes from the Appalachian region of our nation, where rates of unemployment, poverty, and disease of despair like suicide and overdose are higher than the rest of the country. Household income, educational achievement, lower than the rest of the country. He understands better than most why the average American is frankly pissed off. Here he is.
You want to talk about people being pissed off. Well, yeah, people are pissed off when they don't have good jobs. And people are pissed off when things disappear and move overseas. And people are pissed off when they feel like, other countries are being prioritized over the United States of America. And all of that is part of the populist resentment of the past 20 or 30 years in American politics. There are a lot of people who grew up in families like mine who haven't had an easy life and who haven't had all this economic opportunity and who haven't had, you know, a person that they've fallen in love with and they've been able to sort of build a stable, nice family like me and Usha have been able to build. And that gives me a sense of purpose because I want those people to have the same opportunities that I've had. But it also gives me a great sense of anger because we never should have gotten to the point that we are today. And the reason that we have is because of failed leadership, and it's failed leadership over generations. And
He's right about that, failed leadership over generations. Number 3, I believe America should stay out of endless foreign wars. We're not the world's sugar daddy or their ammo dump, and we shouldn't act like it. Number 4, in that same breath, I believe no foreign aid should be given until every veteran, every single veteran here at home, is taken care of first. Number 5, speaking for foreigners, I believe immigrants make America stronger. I do, when they come legally. If your first act in this country is breaking the law, you aren't an upstanding citizen. Period. Number 6, the left wants you to believe that I hate people who don't believe like I do, that I'm homophobic and a bigot. But let me say this, you can marry who you want. I may not agree with your lifestyle, but your life is not mine to judge. I leave that to a much higher power. That being said, I am a Christian and suggest everyone read and follow God's word. The Bible is the best-selling book in history for a reason. In fact, several reasons. Of course, my belief in God informs my worldview. If you're a Christian, it should do the same for you. Which leads me to this. Number 7, I do believe that men are men and women are women. Surgery or hormones do not change that. I'm sorry. Men should use the men's room and women should use the women's room. Pretty simple stuff. It's really not that hard, and it should not be controversial. This shouldn't be some radical opinion, but apparently it's become that. Just watch how this town hall audience reacts in California when a woman named Tish Hyman, a lesbian, black woman who produces music, tells her story about being assaulted in a women's locker room by a man who identified as a woman. The experience has lit a fire under her, and here she's asking California Senator Scott Wiener to protect women under his leadership. Listen.
Are you going to protect women? Not trans women? Women, trans women are different things. Women. Listen, we need to protect women's safety. I was assaulted. Women are women. I was assaulted. No, they are not. They are men. I was assaulted by men. He broke his wife's jaw so bad she needed reconstructive surgery. I'm a lesbian. I'm not transphobic and I'm black. So if there's another black woman in here who wants to tell me how they feel, please join in. But all of you are not. And I don't know who you are, what you are, but I'm a lesbian, and I'm telling you right now, men are harassing women in the locker room.
Let's let him answer the question.
I'm just telling you, since y'all want to woo.
No, just let's.
Now I'm done. And by the way, I respect what you have done. I just want to let you know that.
Let's give the senator the opportunity.
I'm done.
I appreciate your point of view.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry that you were
Multiple times.
And I appreciate you talking about it. I think we need to protect the safety of all women. And that obviously that's incredibly important. And I also know that trans women are also brutalized in this country. So women and cisgender women are brutalized in this country.
Word salad. A complete non-answer from the senator. He has long advocated for the inclusion of men and women's spaces, and he's not budging. Even if he pretends to act civil towards Tish, he's sticking to his propaganda. We'll have more about what I believe after this on The Steve Gruber Show. All right, picking up where we left off. California could be too far gone to the left to be saved. But most Americans recognize the insanity of pretending that men are women. We do need to protect women like Tish, who we saw before the break, who say it out loud. We do. We need to protect people like her. Let's continue with the list. Number 8. I believe schools are for education, not indoctrination. Kids should learn math, history, reading, and science, not political propaganda from anyone. They should not be taught that they were born in the wrong body or pushed into gender delusion. Part of the solution will be taking the responsibility of education away from the government, giving it back to the states, and more importantly, to the parents. The latest national assessment of educational progress and the report card results, they paint a grim picture of American education, showing that student performance in reading, science, math has reached all-time lows, with no meaningful recovery since the COVID-19 pandemic, none. In 2024, listen to this, nearly 70% of 4th and 8th graders scored at or below basic in reading, the highest rate of struggling readers ever recorded, while scores in both reading and math dropped significantly from pre-pandemic levels. And it gets worse, if you can believe it. Among high school seniors, nearly 80% are not proficient in math. 2/3 are not proficient in reading, with average scores in both subjects hitting the lowest marks ever. 8th grade science scores have also declined sharply since 2019. Despite the federal government spending more than $3 trillion on K-12 education since the Department of Education was created by Jimmy Carter in 1979, achievement gaps are widening, and performance continues to fall. Now, look at Deep Blue, Massachusetts. They told the feds to shove it in 1993. They implemented tough state standards, real accountability, and local control, and boom, they rocketed to number 1 in the nation on the NAEP, with 4th grade reading jumping to 2 full grade levels in under a decade, while the rest of the country flatlined under federal help. Texas and Florida both similar stories when it comes to school choice, while D.C. and Chicago have seen no progress despite flushing $20,000 per kid or more down the toilet every single year. It's not just about getting our reading and math scores up. We need education that instills pride and patriotism into our kids again. Here's how the former director of Oklahoma's Department of Education put it quite bluntly. Listen.
We want good teachers in the classroom, right? We want teachers that are passionate about math, history, and science. And folks, we're passionate about wanting people that love American history, that love America, that understand that one of the critical roles of our schools was, yes, get you good at academics, yes, make sure that you can get a job with your God-given talents, but also to create American citizens who will continue this great dream that is America. Benjamin Franklin said it's a republic if you can keep it. Yes. And folks, we have to fight to keep it. We have to continue to allow the next generation to know, as Aaron pointed out, the gift that you've been born into is a tremendous blessing from God. But this country will not continue to be that blessing if we let it fall from our grasp.
If you can keep it. If we can fight for schools like that, then I think it will help my next point, which is this, number 9. I believe America is in a mental health crisis. I mean, look around. Mental health care is real. It matters. And it desperately needs to be addressed. This will take the work of community, religion, health, and a thriving economy, and a government that actually cares about citizens, not just political posturing. You want to stop school shootings? Address the mental health crisis immediately. Don't take my guns. I'm not a threat to anyone. And number 10, I believe guns are not the problem. People are. Gun control infringes on constitutional rights, but I also believe in common sense. Background checks are necessary to keep firearms out of the hands of the mentally ill and the unstable and the dangerous. We've already tried the experiment of gun control here at home. D.C. and Chicago both tried to ban all guns in the last century, and each time their murder rates went up. Crime expert Dr. John Lott has studied this extensively. He says it's the same overseas. Here he is.
There are countries where they've had the rule for the whole country that have seen increases in murder rates. There are island nations that have tried to do that, from Jamaica to the Solomon Islands to, Republic of Ireland to the UK. And yet every single time that either all guns or all handguns have been banned, murder rates have gone up. You would think if on net guns are bad, as they want to go and claim, it should be easy to point to lots of places where you've banned guns and murder rates have gone down. And yet now, just out of randomness, you think once or twice when they banned guns, it would go down or at least stay the same. And yet you can't even.
And yet you can't find that. We've tried this before. It doesn't work. A responsibly armed society is a safe one. I am a conservative because I believe in faith, family, freedom, and personal responsibility. The last one, they're really important. For example, having a gun is not just my right. It is a huge responsibility, one that I take seriously. I don't want a government that controls every aspect of my life. I want a government that protects our rights, secures our border, defends our freedoms, and then gets out of the way. We're strongest when Americans take care of America first, when families are supported, our veterans are honored, and when our children are taught the truth, not propaganda. I love this country. I believe it is worth fighting for. God bless America. At Longevity Wellness, it's more than a product, it's a promise. A promise to create clean, renal-friendly, inflammation-conscious nutrition that supports your whole family. The nutritional shake mix is packed with the essentials your body needs, from protein and collagen to omega-3s and colostrum, designed to keep you moving, thinking, and feeling your best. This is nutrition you can trust. From their family to yours, we use it every day in this household. All you have to do to find out more is go to longevitywellness.co/Gruber. Take the first step toward living stronger and longer. Use the promo code Gruber10 for 10% off your order today. That's longevity.co/Gruber. 10% off using promo code Gruber. You're going to love this product. 8 to 80 and all points in between or beyond. You're going to love it. I promise you that. Support the people that support this program to make it possible every single day. They're great products. Believe me. I'll be right back. Some big news on the path for peace that you may not have heard yet. I'll call it breaking news, but it happened yesterday. The UN Security Council approved Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza and Israel. The 20-point peace plan was announced last month, which included the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, the release of all remaining hostages, and more. And now the United Nations has approved this deal. Israel would also not be permitted to annex or occupy the Gaza Strip under the peace plan, and a board of peace made up of foreign heads of state that would oversee the rebuilding of Gaza until the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank, is ready to assume governance of the region. It's a big deal, the UN Security Council saying yes to Donald Trump's peace plan in the Middle East. Another good step forward for peace on this planet. Meanwhile, I told the Democrats, I mentioned this briefly earlier, but if you missed it, here it is. Larry Summers, longtime Democrat activist, Trump hater, a guy who is one of the instrumental people on Center for American Progress, a very left-wing organization. He is stepping back from public life after being exposed completely by the release of the Epstein files. I told Democrats, look, be careful what you wish for. You keep demanding the release of these emails and this Epstein file and the list, whatever the list may or may not be. Well, Larry Summers, one of the first prominent Democrats to get completely burned by this. Look for Bill Clinton's name. Look for Hillary Clinton's name. There's more that's going to come out, and today there's going to be a vote on the House floor, we're told. to release all the Epstein information, all of it. It's going to come out, and Larry Summers, Center for American Progress, the first big victim of his own embarrassing actions. He says he is deeply ashamed of his longtime ongoing communications with Jeffrey Epstein. And yet it was Larry Summers out there hammering Donald Trump on this topic, among others. Like I said, be careful what you wish for. Larry just got burned for being a guy that hung out with a sex trafficker and pedophile. Wonder what else we'll learn about Larry when the documents come out. I guess we'll find out later today when they vote in the House. We'll keep that in mind as we go forward. Coming up, Maine State Representative and lead Maine Committee President Lori Libby will be here. Won't seek re-election and is partnering to boost Susan Collins in her Senate race. What's that all about in Maine? It's important. We'll talk about it after the break. All right, support for today's program comes to us from PuroClean's Veterans Initiative. It's the PuroVet program, investing in our nation's heroes by helping them own and operate thriving local businesses. That's right. If you're a veteran, you want a business, you're at the front of the line with PuroVet's program. You can go to purovet.com as part of PuroClean. They're a great reclamation company that has franchises all over America. 855-PuroVet to find out more. Joining me now is a woman who's in the fight to save the Senate seat of Susan Collins in the state of Maine. Susan Collins often maligned by those on the right, but the truth of the matter is the options, the alternatives are worse. Laurel Livy is a Maine state representative and the lead Maine committee president. Laurel, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, my friends in Maine, I'm on stations in Maine. I'm on the Lobster Network there every day. And I love my friends in Maine. And they tell me that Susan Collins is going to win this race, but it's not going to be any cakewalk, is it?
You know, it's not going to be a cakewalk, but this seat that Senator Collins is running for re-election here in Maine is a critical seat to maintaining a Republican Senate majority. And so we are excited to be supporting Senator Collins, and we know that she's the right Republican to hold this seat and help maintain that majority.
You know, I point out here at the top here just a moment ago, a lot of people on the right, they go after Susan Collins. She's not conservative enough. She's not this enough. She's Maine enough, though. She is a Maine citizen. That's why she wins by 10 points every time she runs, even when she's predicted to lose, because she connects so well with the people of Maine. And look, a word of warning to those that would take issue with Senator Collins. The alternative, like I said, is far worse. If you want another Angus King, that's what you'll end up with. And that's not a good scenario, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. Look, Mainers are independent-minded, strong-willed, hard-working people. You know, the lobstermen, it sounds like, up here in Maine and others.
Sure.
And that certainly describes Senator Susan Collins. She represents Mainers well in D.C., and we know that she's the right candidate for this seat. And certainly partnering with Sentinel Action Fund, we're strongly supporting Senator Collins, and we know that we need to turn out every Mainer to keep this seat. And that's low propensity voters, that's early voters, absentee, and day of voters. So I'm excited about this partnership with Sentinel Action Fund to support Senator Collins next year.
Now, one of the people running for the Democrats is the Governor Janet Mills. Tell me about Maine under the last few years of Janet Mills' leadership in the state of Maine.
You know, we've seen Governor Janet Mills over the last 6, almost 7 years now, and the changes that she's made to our state. Mainers understand that Senator Collins versus Janet Mills, we have a clear candidate here, and that is Senator Collins. Governor Mills has, from the start of her time in Maine, whether we're talking about COVID and the harsh restrictions that she laid down on Mainers, or the way that she's driven the budget up, 65% Mainers are struggling. They're struggling with the cost of energy. Our students are floundering in school. We have the worst test scores that we've had in years. No matter which industry you look at, Maine is struggling, and we can't afford 6 more years of Janet Mills in the Senate.
True. I agree with you on that. So, any polling numbers at this point, Laurel? Any idea, any indication where we are? Look, the polling numbers the last time around told us that Susan Collins was going to lose. She didn't. She won significantly, I think by double digits, by 10 points, if I'm not mistaken. It's because she connects with Maine people. She doesn't just vote with her party. She takes position sometimes at the chagrin of those on the right when it comes to Supreme Court nominees, for example. She has an independent streak, and she's not going to change that, is she?
Look, folks tried to count Susan Collins out at the last election, and that was a mistake. She connects with the voters that she needs to in Maine, and she connects with those independent-minded folks who support her in every election. And I have no doubt that this will be the case this time around. We're excited here at Lead Maine Committee to be partnering with Sentinel Action Fund to turn out those conservatives that need to vote in Maine, whether we're talking about the early vote, absentee, day of voters. We need to turn out every conservative in support of this Senate seat and make sure that we hold this majority. And we know that Senator Susan Collins is the candidate that can get that job done.
I think the big thing that Republicans need to focus on, and you tell me your thoughts on this, Laurel, and that is affordability. I believe that Mamdani in New York City tapped into the same vein that Donald Trump did last November. And that's affordability. That's giving the American dream a chance for people to get into their first home before they're 40, to pay for groceries without worrying whether they can pick up their prescription medications on the same day as well. Affordability is probably just as acute in Maine as it is everywhere else, and that is the term that's going to power this election, I believe, especially with young people. How does Senator Collins connect to people between 18 and 30?
You know, that's an important point. Mainers care at the end of the day about their pocketbooks and being able to put food on the table for their children. And certainly, I think the folks in New York voted against their own interests in that front, and they'll learn that, unfortunately, over time. I'm eager for Mainers to understand that connection between their pocketbooks and who is in office in the Senate, so they don't make that same mistake, and instead support Senator Susan Collins and make sure that that our costs don't go through the roof with a Democrat majority in D.C. We're already struggling under Governor Mills here in Maine. Folks struggle to pay for their energy due to the extreme agenda that's promoting green everything over common sense and costing Mainers dearly. And so we want to be sure that she doesn't end up in Washington trying to pass those same initiatives. And so we're eager, as folks protect their wallets, to see Senator Collins back in office in 26.
It's going to take big money, $4 million, the boost that you're getting from Sentinel Action Fund through a partnership with the Lead Maine Committee that you head. It's going to take a lot of money to win every Senate seat in America held by Republicans or Democrats, I believe. Any race that's contested is going to be millions of dollars. I'll give you the last word on that. How much money is it going to take to hold that seat and tell people the truth about Susan Collins?
You know, I have no doubt it's going to be an expensive race. The Democrats want to win this seat. This is an important seat for both sides as they seek the majority. And so it's important that we turn out conservatives across our state, making sure that they understand the stakes here, what we're facing as an alternative here in Maine, and make sure that conservatives get out, that we get out the early vote, that we get out the absentee vote, and that we get out the day of voters, making sure that any low propensity conservative voters turn out and vote, and that they vote for Susan Collins.
And I say to conservatives, you know, she may not be your favorite some days. I get it. But like I keep telling you, the alternative is far worse. She connects with the people there, and she votes for smaller government. She votes for America first, and those things you should take into consideration. How do people find out more about this Senate run?
Well, certainly folks can visit leadmaine.com for more information about all that we're doing here in Maine to win our state back and ensure that we hold that conservative majority next year.
Laura, we'll appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you have it. And look, I just counsel my conservative friends, the ones that are saying, well, we can't deal with. You're not going to get a conservative like you imagine one elected in Maine. You're going to get Susan Collins, who's pragmatic. And again, maybe not your favorite. I understand that. But you should support candidates like Susan Collins because, again, the alternative is so much worse. The alternative is Angus King or Bernie Sanders or something even worse. Keep that in mind. I'll take a break and talk about American business after this. A lot of big stories happening Monday. We may have missed a couple of them, and I want you to hear this one because it's important. The EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announcing that waters of the U.S., a rule that was supposed to protect waterways when it was first implemented decades ago and then expanded by the Obama administration to include puddles on my property, it's been rolled back. There was an Idaho couple that were being charged $33,000 a day because they built on soggy ground. And they were told you can't do that, even though that's not the intention of the rule. When it comes to the definition of waters of the United States, the EPA has an important responsibility to protect water resources while setting clear and practical rules of the road that accelerate economic growth and opportunities. And so landowners, you no longer have to live in fear. It's for navigable waters only that the waters of the U.S. was designed to protect, and so that rule has been rolled back. It's important to a lot of farmers and landowners, myself included, and I wanted to share this with you. So how tough would it be to start a clothing company in America now in the 21st century? Can you imagine opening a clothing company when you're competing with all these foreign entities and so forth? Well, my next guest had the guts to do it. Brad Hoos is the founder of Muskox. Brad, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Steve. Good morning to you. Good to be here.
Let me ask you this. You make flannel shirts the best in the world, but I want to ask you about this. How tough is it to create a clothing company, a textiles company in America today?
It's hard. It really is. You've got a lot of competition, and then as a new brand, people aren't familiar with you yet, and some of us are a little set in our ways, right? And so we think of folks who've been around for a long time, and that's immediately who we default to. It's human nature, so I understand that, but it's not easy. We've got to continue to innovate. We've got to continue to make sure our value proposition as an American company is very, very clear and communicate that. And then most of all, like we've got to have really quality products.
Yeah, you've got American employees set up in Detroit to create this company. And I'm going to guess you don't get to pay your employees $5 a day. You actually have to go out there and compete, right? Your employees want more than $5 a day, Brad. That's just a guess.
Steve, you are a very wise man. You nailed it.
Yeah, important stuff. All right, so let's talk about these products. You're wearing one right now for those watching. Muskox, we've been associated with it 5-6 years, a long time now. In fact, I pulled a Muskox out of the closet yesterday. It's the one with pockets. I love this.
Oh, yeah.
And Sister Sarah, who is obviously, works in the office here, she goes, "Where'd you get that? I don't have one like that." Her whole face lit up. But you've got great flannels, including ones that have pockets. I call it a shacket. I don't know what you call it, but I love these products. Tell me about that particular one.
Yeah, that's a Yukon flannel shirt jacket, and it's a little pricier, but they do have the pockets in them, keep you warm. We do have coats as well, which is they're really thick and durable. It's got a waxy outer coat and a flannel lined in the inside. So we've got a lot of different offerings. Our core offerings still our grand flannel, our field grand flannel, which are really heavyweight flannels, so 8.9 and 8.2 ounces per square yard is about double what you would typically see from other flannels out there. So very sturdy, but they're soft, right? They're not rigid. They're not heavy on you. They're solid and strong, not heavy. So
soft.
Yes.
So that's key. I mean, it's double brushed cotton. It's fabulous. The shirts are fabulous. And look, there's usually a tug of war when one shows up in the office about, there's like a dog pile. Everybody's jumping on the product to see who gets, it's mine. No, it's mine. It gets a little ugly in here. 29 degrees this morning, 29 degrees. So this is flannel season. I mean, it's perfect out there, and hunting season. So if you want to stay warm, put on your muskox, throw your jacket over it, whatever. Put on your orange hat, make sure you do that. But these are the perfect product for this time of the year, no matter where you are in America, where it's cold.
That's right. For the love of flannel, it's flannel season here, right? So Laurel was talking about getting up for early voting or absentee voting.
Sure.
Whatever voting you're doing, we're here for it at Muskox, especially this time of year. I don't know why November is the typical month for the ballot box. I'm sure there's some great historical stories and context there, but given that it's a great shirt to wear when you're going outside and heading to the polls, whether it's absentee or on election day too.
And you got some brand new patterns, 5 new heavyweight rugged winter plaids right now. Flannels, you've got 15 stores now nationwide. Gear Junkie named you number one 3-4 years ago. We named you number one before that, by the way. We predate those guys. But the point of the matter is this. Everybody loves these shirts. They're the best you can get. They're not inexpensive, but we've got a deal for you. You can save $15 by using the promo code Gruber today at gomuskox.com. I mean, these are shirts that my kids and grandkids will have because I can't wear them out. Trust me, I've tried. I can't wear them out. They're just fabulous.
Yeah, they're certainly built to last here, and that's something that we pride ourselves on. In a world of doing things with fast fashion and here and now, we go a little bit slow and build things that are built to last. A novel concept, I know. But yeah, you mentioned a couple of numbers here. So the number 5 and the number 15 are the things that are probably good for everyone to know about. So we have 5 new patterns. In the last week, we've launched 5 new patterns, and so we had a little bit of a dog pile in the office here in terms of people trying to get their hands on those. So I can certainly relate to that. And then for every flannel purchase, we donate $5 to Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center to support American wildlife. And then 15, right? So we are in 15 stores. If you've got a store that you think we need to be in, or you have a connection, let us know, because we're making a push along those lines. Shoot us an email. We always love to hear from Gruber Nation. So your uncle owns a store, your cousin, your nephew, whoever it is, let us know. We'd love to hear it. And then, great news for Gruber listeners. We have $15 off a flannel when you use the promo code Gruber, or you go to gomuskox.com/Gruber. So
there you go.
5
There's
and
your
15
special.
are 2 numbers. Yep.
There you go. Gomuskox.com. Save $15 for the promo code Gruber. You will give $5 to wildlife, and you will support an American company making a better product than anybody else. Brad Hoos, thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
There you have it. Again, gomuskox.com. Promo code Gruber. You'll save $15. You'll be glad you did. You'll thank me for it. Trust me. I'll be back. All right, Donald Trump says he may consider talking to Maduro in Venezuela. We may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out, he said in the Oval Office yesterday. The Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro is concerned about the attacks on cartel drug running boats in the Caribbean. Democrats are concerned about it as well. When asked what it meant that Maduro was interested in talking, Trump said he didn't know, adding, "I'll talk to anybody. I talk to anybody." And he does. Big part of who he is, right? We're stopping drug dealers and drugs from coming into our country. Now, one of the complaints is that, and I don't know how this is a complaint, but this is seriously one of the complaints from those opposed to hitting these drug running boats. Well, it's not fentanyl. It's just cocaine. Just cocaine. Oh. As if nobody overdoses on cocaine or crack or any of that, right? Strange position to take. His comments came as the Defense Department announced another attack. It is 21 now. 21 boat strikes, 80 people killed, roughly. The Pentagon said the U.S. Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, with 5,000 military personnel and dozens of warplanes on board, and a strike group has moved into the Caribbean. This is in addition to the 8 warships, a nuclear sub, and F-35 aircraft already in the region. Not to mention how many bases we have in the southern United States. Trump officials telling folks that they held 3 meetings at the White House last week to discuss options for possible military operations against Venezuela. Would you support that? That's my question to you today. Would you support in Mexico? What would you support there? Go to stevegruber.com. Send me an email. Really curious on your feedback. Tell me where you're from, what your position is. Have you known somebody that died from an overdose? A friend of mine's son died last year. Tragic story from fentanyl. What are your opinions on that and anything else? stevegruber.com. Make sure you go to all the social media platforms as well. Hit the like button. Slam that. Follow us. And send an email to stevegruber.com. More to come after the top of the hour. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent.
Come on, man.
We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is. Another day of broadcast excellence, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, as we do every single day. That's what we do here at the Steve Gruber Show. We fight for you. We fight for this country. We fight for the truth. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, legal analysts that have reviewed President Trump's lawsuit against the BBC as legitimate say he could win substantial damages as a result of the deceptive editing of a documentary, and UK laws that make that a big mistake over there. Number two, the EPA has overturned a Biden-era regulation that could allow the feds to basically commandeer your property under the guise of protecting the water. Huge reversal. We touched on it last hour. We'll talk more about it this hour. And number three, I'm going to continue to hammer on the theme of affordability. Seems the White House is paying attention to that as well. They're drilling down on it. Working to lower prices from health care to groceries could be the difference between winning and losing in the midterms and in 2028 for the White House run as well. Look, what are you paying for gas where you are? $2.64 is what I paid on Friday. $2.64. That's pretty good. I'm going to tell you, that's a pretty good gas price. Diesel, I think, was $2.99. I'd have to go back and look at that, but I was putting regular gas, and I glanced up at the diesel. It might have been a little bit more than that, but not bad. We're making progress here. As energy prices come down, inflation cools. Now, we're not going to reverse all the price increases that happened when inflation went over 9% during the Biden administration. 9.1% was inflation in 22 and 23. Unbelievable. One of the ways that people want to save money, though, is with health care. It's been top of mind at the front of the conversation. President Trump continues to push the idea of health savings accounts for American taxpayers to create a better health care system for everybody. He said it again yesterday. Listen.
And I've had personal talks with some Democrats. I can't tell you who they are. I just don't want to do that. It's not fair to them. About paying large amounts of dollars back to the people. You know, this was my idea. It came up during that, you know, oftentimes under times of stress, like the shutdown, you come up with great ideas that you wouldn't have thought of before. The insurance companies are making a fortune. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. They are taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, and they're not really putting it back, certainly not like they should. So when I see this, and when I've seen this over the last pretty short period of time, I said, why do we just pay this money directly to the people of our country and let them buy their own health insurance? And you know, I made that statement, and I made it a little bit cavalierly, but it sounded good. And everybody has picked it up, including Democrats. And I am talking to some Democrats right now about doing that. People love it. We're going to take them.
Yeah. You need a plan where you can put money into people's pockets. Let them choose the health care they want. Make insurance companies compete for your business. You'll end up with better coverage at a lower price. Don't just send money to the insurance companies under some insurance scam called Obamacare. Don't do that, right? Let the free market system work. And speaking of the free market system and socialism, that's going to be what's going to be on the ballot come the midterms in 2026. And some of these places are going to vote for socialism. Some places will vote for capitalism. What's the difference? Well, Bill Maher has an interesting comparison and explanation. Here he is.
Capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century, a f***ing mess. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. Zoran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar.
Zoltar, yeah, make your wishes come true. Big. Yes. Bill Maher, right about a fair amount of things these days, isn't he? Not all things, but a fair amount of things. Yeah, it'll turn out to be socialism like the last century, or any effing century. It's all a failure. Senator John Kennedy, one of my favorites, maybe one of yours too, he's also ready to back another bill, a reconciliation bill, like they've done before, the Republicans. He said, we don't need a vote from anybody. And his focus, again, addressing the cost of everything. Here's the senator from Louisiana.
We have to address the cost of living in America, the cost of housing, cost of health care, cost of going to the grocery store. You shouldn't have to sell blood plasma in order to go to the grocery store. We can do that through a reconciliation bill without a single solitary Democratic votes. They'll be welcome to work with us, but I know what they're going to say. They're going to say no. We don't need their votes. So we did that with one big, beautiful bill. Why aren't we doing it again? Instead, for 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, we've just sat on our ice cold, lazy butts and done nothing.
Yeah, no good. Ice cold, lazy butts and done nothing. At least he can see it for what it is. And affordability is also impacted by fraud in this country. It is. When people take benefits they're not entitled to. When people take benefits they're not entitled to, or they're dead, it impacts the price for everybody. And when I say they're dead, I actually mean it. Here's Secretary of Ag Brooke Rollins talking about the SNAP program. Listen.
The problem is you have an extremely corrupt program, but up until this administration and with President Trump's direct focus on this and making sure every taxpayer dollar is spent appropriately, we've never really had the opportunity to dig in. So we're going to be talking a lot more about SNAP reform. We've got a lot of people listening now, which is very, very helpful, and to take that program back to its original intent of helping those who are truly needy in our communities, but not to have a massive welfare benefit where so many people are taking advantage of it that shouldn't be.
That shouldn't be. I mean, that raises the price for everybody now, doesn't it? I want to tell you about My Pure Health Solutions, a completely natural system that helps you find out why your metabolism shut down and shows you how to turn it back on using real science and technology, not shots or stimulants. You'll eat real food, no exercise required, and finally see how the weight loss industry has had it backwards all these years. Because lasting change starts by fixing what's happening on the inside and then learning how to keep your weight off. And right now, their Black Friday sale is in full swing, the biggest of the year. Mention your part of the Steve Gruber Show. You'll get an extra listener discount. It's pretty important. You don't have to start now, by the way. Book your consult, lock in your discount, and you can start after Thanksgiving. You can start in the new year. Men lose 40 pounds on average, women 25, more for some. Go to gruberhealth.com or call 269-964-4044. Get your metabolism working at gruberhealth.com. The Black Friday sale is right now, but you don't have to start until you're ready. gruberhealth.com. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now as we dive into it. AI is going to rule our lives if it doesn't already, and let's be honest about that. AI has changed things in ways that a lot of people didn't see coming. The world has changed more in the last 10 years when it comes to the information at your fingertips. I mean, how many places do you call now? Hello, this is Melody, your AI secretary, or whatever they say. I am his AI assistant. I'm like, really? And I'm talking to a computer that sounds like a human being. It's like, wow, pretty frightening. And that's just the least of it. Will Howell is the executive director of Consumers Research. Will, good to have you on the program.
Great to be with you.
I know you're traveling, so let's get to this. First of all, how's the traveling? Everybody's back to work now. That's good news, right?
It's looking good, actually. I'm here in the San Antonio airport this morning at bright and early 6:15 a.m., and it's not too bad, actually. The traffic's down. I'm on a flight that's about half full, so it'll be interesting. But people who are interested in traveling have heard all the bad news about how bad it was last week. They should get back on those flights. It's looking good.
Get back on that horse and ride it. Good idea. All right, woke AI. You said the wokest AI company, Anthropic, the developer of Claude. And I've not used Claude. I've looked at it and didn't really use it. I use Super Grok a lot. I use ChatGPT. I think everybody uses these things in one fashion or another to, for me, I fact check a lot of things and go through, and sometimes I challenge the AI. But Claude, you say, likely allowed CCP cyber attacks, and it was the wokest of the AI companies. How do you determine who's the wokest of them all?
Well, there's been a number of studies that have asked Claude and all the other major chat GPTs and LLMs and Grok and all that questions about major issues around LGBTQ agenda, trans ideology, economics, DEI, CRT. And Claude routinely scores the wokest on these questions. It will, basically spout far left propaganda, regardless of the question that you ask, regardless of the facts. You mentioned fact checking, using these things to fact check. Well, you wouldn't want to use Claude for that because it will give you the far left agenda item, unless you're trying to find out what a Democrat thinks, and then it'll do a great job. But what's really alarming about this is that Anthropic is the most closed of the LLMs, meaning large language models, AI chats. And so it's, one of the most biased. They claim that it needs to be closed and so that no one can look at it for safety reasons. But then they admit that the CCP used Claude to hack other people's computers, basically told it, hey, I'm trying to do a project. I'm trying to hack this other system. Can you help me do it? And it was more than willing to help. And in one case, it actually succeeded in accessing unauthorized information on behalf of the CCP.
Well,
now,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. The way you're describing this, Will, it's like the CCP is a partner with Claude, which would explain the far left ideology being spewed by that platform.
Yeah, that's a great question, and there's a whole other element of this I haven't mentioned yet, which is the people that run Anthropic are part of something called the effective altruist movement, which is effectively a cult. The most famous effective altruist is Sam Bankman-Fried, the now imprisoned founder of FTX Exchange that was running a massive Ponzi scheme. And the people involved in this effective altruist movement basically think that it's a weird justification where they believe they're the smartest people in any industry or any issue. And so that justifies, sort of the ends justify the means for them to do pretty much anything. It's one of the reasons that Anthropic is a closed model, is they don't believe they should have to deal with any oversight from the general public about how their product works. But now it turns out that they had some of the loosest safety controls that allowed the CCP to utilize them to hack other people's computers. So that's one of the reasons we're really raising the alarm on this company and their product Claude, because not only are they wokest, but as is almost always the case, the wokest companies are the ones that are in bed with the CCP and doing their bidding.
Yeah, so Sam Bankman-Fried didn't turn out to be the smartest, did he? No, that's why he's in a prison cell. Yeah, it's interesting. The effective altruist movement.
But if you look at what he was...
Go ahead.
But if you look at what he was doing, he was funneling millions upon tens of millions of dollars to the Democratic Party. It was a smart play in that sense. He was buying political prestige and power within, the Democrats. And, a lot of this AI stuff can work similarly. You see the Anthropic folks lining up with the far left in order to get special favors.
Hey, let me ask you this, Will, while I've got you, because this is the real question I think a lot of people have. What is the most effective AI model to use to ask questions? If it's not Claude, is there one you trust, or do you have suspicions about all of them? And look, because I've gotten things that are just flat out wrong on Super Grok, no question, and I challenge it and say, hey, that's not right, and it'll apologize to you, whatever. But is there one that you think is effective and has more user trust than others?
I like to use a combination of Super Grok and ChatGPT. Both of them have problems, and both of them can hallucinate. They call them hallucinations, where they make up facts or studies that don't exist. So the key, whenever you're using any of these products, is to double check the links and the citations and ask for the primary sources that they're using to generate the information they're giving you. You cannot trust. It's one of the big, I think, dangers of the overhype of the AI movement, is that they pretend that you can get hard and fast, like concrete information from these things. You always need to be double checking their work. It's a great way to find things quickly. It's fantastic search engine,
interesting,
but you need to double check the facts,
because these AI programs, whatever you want to call it, they scrape the internet for information. Why would they be making things up that don't exist? Make up facts. That concerns me deeply. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it's true, and unfortunately, there's been I'm an attorney, and so I chuckle. There's stories about every week now of someone putting in a brief or a motion citing cases that don't exist, and it becomes clear that they've used an LLM, a chat, to create the entire document. So it just goes to show you the technology's not perfect yet. People should be very weary if they hear something on one of these chats and don't check it.
I go back to the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. It depends on who's informing the AI platform as to what you get out of it. Will, fly safe today. Thank you for being here from the airport.
Great to be with you, Steve. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. All right, there you have it. Double check. Challenge the computer and say, that's not right. When you have something you know is wrong, say, point it out, highlight it, send it back. Super Grok will correct itself. And it will apologize, which is weird, a computer apologizing to me, but that's what happens. All right? We're going to take a break and be back. It's a Tuesday on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, the president has invited the Indiana Senate leader and others to Washington to discuss Indiana's possible redistricting, which is currently stalled. Indiana is stalled, and President Trump has invited the Indiana Republican Senate leader and other lawmakers of the House. Senate Pro Tem Roderick Bray will be in the Oval Office this week, potentially, in an attempt to convince them to join his redistricting efforts to give the Republicans an advantage in the midterm elections, according to Politico. Bray effectively ended the effort by saying his chamber does not have the votes for passage. The White House did not respond to Politico's request for comments about this. On Tuesday, state lawmakers will gather at the Indiana State House. That's today, where there are expected to be protests. Indiana House Speaker Todd Hudson has not yet said whether the lower chamber, which has the votes to pass new congressional maps, will convene on December 1 to take up the issue. Republicans standing in the way of redistricting, even though California is doing it, Virginia's doing it, North Carolina's doing it, Ohio's doing it, Missouri's doing it. And then the Supreme Court is going to weigh in with the biggest decision of all on all of it. A challenge to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Article 2. And that's coming out of Louisiana, where they say, you're making districts based on race. That's not legal. That's not constitutional. I urge my friends in Indiana to do the right thing. Let's see, who else is on the map? Oh, Texas, of course, is doing redistricting. And Donald Trump not impressed with Rod Bray or Greg Good for not wanting to redistrict their state of Indiana, which is, Indiana is the one state, the polls close and like 8 seconds later, Indiana's gone for the Republican. Doesn't matter who the Republican nominee is, Indiana goes for the Republican. But they're turning a little bit more blue, too, all the time. We need congressional maps that reflect the people, not their race, but their districts. Should be done right. And again, you have 800,000 people represented by each member of Congress. That should be reduced. We should have more members of Congress. If you had representation of 50 or 100,000, that'd be more representative of America, wouldn't it? Of course it would. Time to restructure the entire House, in my estimation. Let me know what you think about that at stevegruber.com. Send me an email. I look forward to it. I'll be back. The headlines have been juicy, to say the least. Juicy, that's my word now. Juicy. A lot going on. Donald Trump says he'll talk to Maduro in Venezuela. The Epstein files or lists or whatever that is could be released today. I warned people about this. Democrats, careful what you wish for. Larry Summers is wishing that it had never come out, I'll tell you that. His association with Center for American Progress. These active Democrats who had ongoing relationship with Epstein, that's a problem. And, of course, The Feud. Joining me now is Dr. Steve Turley, internationally recognized scholar, speaker, and author who has amassed over 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube and so much more. Turley, welcome back.
So, Stephen, great to be back with you. I love how you put it, The Feud. That's like
Feud.
the new movie out for Christmas or something like that.
Well, let's start right there. Look, the president has withdrawn his endorsement of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, look, she has been a longtime supporter, one of the most vocal supporters of MAGA, of America First, of Donald Trump. And they're at this crossroads, and the crossroads came because of Epstein. But I think, and we talked about this briefly in the break, I think this will reconcile itself. It has to.
Yes,
we don't have time for distractions. We've got people like Mamdani winning in New York. Katie, whatever her name is, won in Seattle. These Democratic socialists, this is metastasizing right in front of us. And we can't fight it if we're divided, can we?
That's an excellent connection. I think that's really important because this feud could, if it continues and gets deeper, signal a stress point in the Trump coalition. Remember, we have to remember the Trump coalition is not the Republican coalition. In fact, that's what makes it so hard to translate the enthusiasm for Trump into enthusiasm for Republicans. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, as does someone like Tom Massey and so forth, they do appeal to the disaffected independent populist voter, the low propensity voter who feels completely disenfranchised by the system. And Trump is risking alienating that wing of his coalition. So this rift could represent a larger rift in the coalition. It was interesting that you're seeing a number of Democrats right now saying to MTG, come on over to our side. We're the true populist resistance, right?
Yeah, that's not
right.
Happen.
But that's the precise kind of messaging we saw with Mamdani, or more recently with the Seattle mayor. If the populist right disappoints, not all,
you hit the word.
But some disaffected voters will move to the populist left. That's
right.
what we're seeing in Europe. It's a very fluid. Here's
what I'm saying,
from
Turley.
left to right.
Here's what populist is the word. It's not conservative. It's not liberal. And somebody's going to win in the 26th election, 28th election. It's going to be a populist on the left or a populist on the right. That's the question. Because it all comes back to affordability and things of that nature. Can people get a mortgage? Can they pay for a used car? Are they going to worry about buying groceries over prescription medications? It's about affordability, and it's especially about affordability for people 18 to 30 who feel they've been disenfranchised and ignored. That's where it's going to break, Turley.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And they moved over dramatically to Mamdani. We have some polling that shows that about 10% of Mamdani's voted for Trump back in 2024. So there was a Trump Mamdani voter. And the key there is if they're populist, they're not thinking in terms of left and right. That's what we have to understand. The divide is not a horizontal divide. It's a vertical divide between the people and a corrupt permanent political class. And if it's a vertical divide now, the populist right is very strong, but if they disappoint, they will easily navigate over to the populist left because as far as they're concerned, they're on the same side.
Exactly, it's the same plane.
Against the establishment. Exactly,
well,
they're on the same
That's exactly
plane.
right, because here's what Trump tapped into in 24. Working class people who also thought they were ignored and didn't have a chance. Mamdani tapped into the same vein, just different spot on the same vein.
In an urban environment. Exactly.
That's exactly right. So Republicans have to focus on affordability. That is it. And Donald Trump's doing it. I think this house savings account idea is brilliant. I do. Send the money to the American people so they can choose their own insurance, their own doctor, their own medical coverage, and make those insurance companies fight for your business. It'll lower costs and improve services, and the insurance companies whose profits have gone up 8 and 10 times since Obamacare came on the scene will no longer be filching and fleecing the American people.
Exactly. And the money's going directly to the people. So it's very tangible. They can feel it. They can see it. And like you said, they could shop around. As I understand it, the less money you make, the more you get. I mean, it's across the board perfect. And it will solve the problem.
Yeah. It will solve the problem. It'll make healthcare more important. So we got to get a couple other things in here. So there's that. Check that off the list. Blowing up, I've been on a lot of charter boats in my life, fished a lot in my life. I've never seen a charter boat that had big barrels of chemicals, 55-gallon drums of chemicals. So let me assure folks, these are not fishing boats, okay? And I think most Americans are behind this. Now Donald Trump says, I'll speak to Maduro, I'll talk to anybody. That's the thing about Donald Trump. He will talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah.
It's an important step to get things figured out, isn't it?
It is. And yes, a very important point is these boats tend to be characterized with engines, very powerful engines that could cost anywhere from $13,000 to $50,000 each. These are hardly your typical Venezuelan families out for a little sail. Yeah, and I think you're right. Blowing up these boats are rather popular. Atlas Intel has the policy at 53% support, only 35% oppose it. So the public does tend to support this, shall we say, no tolerance policy of smuggling cocaine into the U.S.
Well, hold on. See, that was a funny thing, Turley. These people are like, that's not fentanyl, that's cocaine, as if that's okay. I mean, that's the argument from the left. Oh, that's only cocaine. Then bring it on in. Let's go to the let's go to the party. Let's go to the disco.
That's why, yeah. No, you got it. That's just so absurd.
Crazy.
It is. It's part of their 80-20 doom loop. They're always siding on the most unpopular positions. But Data Republican, she was part of Doge. She has a really strong Twitter following or X following. She does all of this research in terms of these network connections and NGOs. She's making the argument that the strategy of taking on Venezuela as one of these rogue, authoritarian regimes actually lines up with taking on the globalist networks as well, because they both tend to align themselves with a shared common goal, and that's undermining American sovereignty. So one of the reasons why Trump is harassing Venezuela so much, she thinks, is actually in the end to get some info on Soros and this larger NGO globalist network around the world. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the case, if she's right on that. Then this isn't some distraction or side issue. This is actually part and parcel of bringing down the whole globalist complex.
Part of the main event is what you're saying. It's part of the main event. It's not something out here fringe. It's part of the middle of the road. So the question that I've asked people, and again, go to stevegruber.com, send me an email today, because I am curious where you live, what your thoughts are about an active war in Venezuela, which has also been discussed, or would you go after the cartels in Mexico? Those are big questions, Turley.
Yes. Yeah, they are. They are. And again, and the president of Mexico is finding out big time what happens when the Gen Z generation ends up rising up against these narco-terrorist administrations.
It's ugly in Mexico City right now. All right, we got Dr. Steve Turley. Stick for a moment, Turley, because here's the next name on the list. Let's see, what's his name? Oh, Epstein. Yeah, we'll talk about that in just 2 minutes here. Dr. Steve Turley here on the Steve Gruber Show. We'll be right back. All right, back at it now. And, of course, the House is going to vote today on release of the Epstein list, files, whatever it is. Turley's still with me, Dr. Steve Turley, of course. And the first casualty, I've been telling Democrats for a while, look, I played a clip here yesterday of Donald Trump in 2015, just after he announced his run for president the first time, talking about Prince Andrew. We don't have to call him Prince anymore, by the way. That's just Mr. Windsor. And Bill Clinton being tangled up with Epstein and that island that Trump said was a cesspool and a big problem politically, potentially for Hillary Clinton. He's been calling it out since 2015. He's not entangled at this. They can fantasize about it all they want. But Larry Summers, big guy in Democratic circles, a guy who's hated Trump forever, part of the Center for American Progress. I've been warning Democrats, careful what you wish for. Larry Summers was trying to get dating advice from Epstein for years, apparently, Turley. It's just like, how bad does that look? Well, we lost Turley for a moment. We'll get him right back up. He froze there just for a second. That's technology for you. But Larry Summers, if you missed it, the emails were released, 23,000. The Democrats try to cherry pick 3 to say, look, this is Trump, makes him look bad. No, Trump doesn't look bad. The Democrats are going to look bad in this deal. The vote is coming today. Expect a lot of Republicans to vote for the release as well. But 7 years were the correspondence between Larry Summers. I mean, he's a big Democrat operative, is Larry Summers. He was going back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein. When I say dating advice, he was dating this woman. He kept getting advice from Jeffrey Epstein on how to handle the dating, how to move forward, right? I mean, here it is. And like I said, there he's back. I said, look, Democrats, careful what you wish for, because it's going to be names that are going to shock you. And some of them are like, no. Yeah, and so let's see. Larry says he's deeply ashamed, Turley, deeply ashamed. And he's pulling back, right?
Right, that's right. Because he got caught. That's why. That's why he's deeply ashamed. Yeah, I've for a long time, I'm with you. I've been following this for a while, going all the way back to 2016. I've always thought this is the Democrats walking into a trap. And if Trump pulls this off, which increasingly looks like he will, this will be the single greatest political 4D chess move I think we have seen yet. Because we have to remember, when all said and done, Epstein was a Democrat. He was a major Democrat donor who was hanging out with Democrats, not Republicans, but also in terms of how this unites the Trump coalition, right? We have to remember that the Trump coalition is primarily animated by a massive and growing populist sentiment that despises the entire political class, a radically corrupt establishment. And they see Epstein as the face of that elite corruption. So very few things actually unite the Trump coalition more than Epstein and how the files can be used to expose that corruption. And like you said, we're already seeing it. The latest drop that just came out are emails that show Barack Obama's inner circle. They had direct communications, repeated communications with Epstein. So Larry Summers, I mean, let that hit you. Our former Treasury Secretary was asking Epstein for dating advice. I mean, so it doesn't get more pathetic than that. He's officially stepping down, as you saw, the president of Harvard. Then we have Epstein in direct contact with the Democrat representative from the U.S. Virgin Islands, or delegate, I'm supposed to say, right, during a hearing.
Sending her, ask this, ask that, directly during the questions in front of the
interfering in congressional proceedings. It's insane. Right. I mean, it's nuts. So I think, they're getting caught more and more red-handed. Democrats are already coming out and saying that the Trump administration contaminated these files, that they deliberately fabricated and manipulated them because they know how bad they're going to look when they finally drop. And in the end, they have no one else to blame but themselves. But this will unite the populist sentiments of the Republican Party for sure.
I think that's true. And so for Stacey Plaskett, by the way, from Puerto Rico, was getting those text messages. It's going to blow up spectacularly in their face, I believe. Look, there's nothing to move around here. Trump threw him out. In fact, now there's a lot of evidence that Trump was one of the people that helped identify Epstein for the prosecution. The victim's attorneys thanked Donald Trump because he was one of the only ones that they subpoenaed that said, sure, what do you need to know? He was one of the only ones, right?
Exactly. That's what, And he was, if I recall, I think Virginia Giuffre actually worked at Mar-a-Lago.
She
So
did.
She's, she's one of the most prominent victims who took down one of the most powerful men in the world, Prince
And
Andrew.
wrote in her book that Donald Trump was always professional and polite. I mean, the Democrats, careful what you wish
and
for.
under oath in testimony, sworn testimony, said he had nothing to do with the inner circle of all the nefarious activities.
So if Bill Clinton gets pulled out here, the most infamous painting of all time, Bill Clinton in the blue dress in Epstein's mansion there in Manhattan. I mean, does that not tell you everything you need to know about Bill Clinton's relationship with him and how many times, 27 times he was on the plane, something like that, right?
Oh, but also, have you noticed, Stephen, how quiet the Clintons have been this week of late? Just especially Hillary. They've been very, very quiet. And that's because there are congressional subpoenas to get them to testify before Congress. They've ignored them thus far, but they're not going to be able to continue.
Well, if you run a nonprofit, say something called the Clinton Foundation, and you're tangled up in something like this, and you've taken millions of dollars from the world, and this comes out, man, it's not just a bad look, it's criminal behavior. Last word to you.
It is. And again, that's the key. Nothing unites the Trump coalition like Epstein, because he is seen as the poster boy, the face of this corrupt political class. So if this really comes out, I think a lot of the tensions that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I think will get resolved very quickly.
I think you're right. Dr. Steve Turley, always a pleasure. How do they find you?
They could go to our website, turleytalks.com, or just punch my name into YouTube, Dr. Steve Turley.
There you have it, Dr. Steve Turley. Always a pleasant and informative conversation. Turley, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Greatly appreciate it. Very entertaining. When we come back, we'll have a quick wrap on sports with Brock Palmbush right here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, time to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. In NFL Monday Night Football last night, the Dallas Cowboys thrashed the Las Vegas Raiders 33-16 in Vegas. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott threw for 268 yards and 4 touchdowns on the night. Wide receiver George Pickens had 9 catches for 144 yards and a score. Dallas moves to 4-5-1 on the year. The Raiders dropped to 2-8 on the season. In the NBA last night, there were 8 games. Winners included Cleveland, Detroit, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. Detroit's 127-112 win over Indiana was the Pistons' 10th win in a row. Oklahoma City moved to 14-1 on the season with their 126-109 victory over New Orleans. In the NHL, there were 6 games. Winners included Florida, Carolina, Columbus, and Anaheim. And in college football, Virginia Tech hired James Franklin as the school's new head coach yesterday. He'll be formally introduced as coach tomorrow morning. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. A lot to cover today as we look forward to the Epstein vote today, as we talked about with Turley. Now, coming up in the next hour, we'll have Tim Young here, comedian, host, speaker, author, and influencer, friend of mine from Texas. He's going to get up early today and talk to us about Epstein as well. Ivy will be here in the next hour. Don't want to miss that, and so much more. We're also going to talk to Knox Williams, and we're going to talk about suppressors for firearms. They're not silencers, they're suppressors. And the reason we're going to talk to him is because suppressors can protect your hearing. Look, I've got a lot of hearing loss myself. I do. Because when I was young, I didn't worry about shooting. Your ears ring a little bit. I wish I had paid a lot more attention to my hearing. My ears ring constantly. Tinnitus, they call it, right? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've hunted extensively and shot extensively, and as a result have damaged my hearing. Don't do that. Make sure your kids use hearing protection whenever they're in the woods, okay? It's an important thing. Really important thing. All right, I'll take a break. Like I said, when we come back, we got a lot to cover here. Jay DeBoyer, House member here in Michigan. Jay DeBoyer, top of the feed for Fox News today. I'll tell you about that as well coming up. something to make you look around and say, hey, you know what? I live in a pretty great country. President Trump is calm, on point, on his game. And unlike the last guy, he is competent and coherent. Come on, man. We're not bending the knee anymore. We're here to take a stand for God and country.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
All right, welcome back to another big hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Broadcast excellence is our aim every single day, and fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom is what we do here. We fight for this country. We fight for you. We fight to tell the truth. You're always welcome to be part of the program by going to stevegruber.com and dropping me an email. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, Michigan snags $60 million in federal projects for Selfridge and the new fighter jet wing coming in there. That's good news. Number two, a man accused of killing his sons in Adrian in 2010 isn't going anywhere. He's being held on a $60 million bond. I'm going to tell you about that story in a minute. But first, number three, Jay DeBoyer. He's a member of the Michigan House, and he's also a chair of the Oversight Committee at the Michigan House of Representatives. And we did this story a while back, did Michigan News Source, my news company. We covered this story back in late October. But here we are, and it's top of the feed at Fox News. Top of the feed at Fox News because DeBoyer had gotten a conversation with the Chief Deputy Superintendent, Sue Carnell, and asked her, how many genders are there? How many genders are there? She sat there and smiled for a long time and paused without answering. And he asked again, how many genders are there? Carnell responded, different people have different beliefs on that. No, not really. I don't even think she has different beliefs on that. The clip went viral on social media, resulting in her getting hammered. And then it got picked up by the libs of TikTok. The libs of TikTok. Over 2 million views for Jay DeBoyer today. You would think they'd come up with something better than I'm not a biologist, as Justice Jackson said by now, said Roger Severino, the Heritage Foundation vice president. This is beyond embarrassing, said Paul Zypola. I think that's how you say his name, Zypola. If a person can't answer how many genders there are, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. She's caught in the grips of institutionalized mania, said political commentator Wesley Yang on X. But Jay DeBoyer, top of the feed. He's been on this program a number of times. A guy who doesn't need to be in politics, but he does it because he says state needed help, and I had time on my hands and was able to pitch in and help. And he's pretty straightforward, interesting guy. Oversight Committee chair, right? So he gets his eyes onto a lot of things, his fingers into a lot of things. He's always interesting. All right, so to Adrian, Michigan we go. Michigan News Source, my news company that covered Jay DeBoyer weeks ago, long before Fox News picked it up and long before libs of TikTok picked it up. We had covered it here for you then. MichiganNewsSource.com for you to find out more right now on all big stories in Michigan. And here's one of them from Adrian, Dateline. A man accused of murdering his 3 sons in 2010 isn't going anywhere. John Skelton being held on a $60 million bond after being charged last week with open murder and tampering with evidence. Skelton had been set for release this month. He had served a 10 to 15-year prison sentence for not returning the boys to their mother after visitation. Today, he's in the Lenawee County Jail after Monday's arraignments. Officials describe Skelton as uncooperative with investigators, which has been a common theme since the boys disappeared. Law enforcement last interviewed Skelton on November the 3rd. The boys, Andrew, 9, Alexander, 7, and Tanner, 5. Reported missing just after Thanksgiving all the way back in 2010, 15 years ago. That was following a visit to their father's house in Morenci. Skelton and the boys' mother, Tanya Zuvers, were in the middle of a divorce, an ugly divorce. A large-scale investigation search effort did not yield any trace of the boys. At Zuvers' request, the judge declared the 3 boys legally dead in March. Despite extensive efforts during the last 15 years, their bodies have never been recovered. Zuvers previously claimed Skelton was responsible for killing the boys. The couple was getting divorced that fall, something authorities said Skelton did not want. A probable cause affidavit tied to Skelton's recent charges detail what followed when Zuvers arrived to pick up her sons November the 26th, 2010. A search of Skelton's internet search history revealed that within a week of the boy's disappearance, he searched different ways to kill a person. Thanksgiving Day was the last time anybody saw them alive, playing in the yard on Thanksgiving. Skelton maintains he turned the three boys over to a group called Underground Sanctuary. However, law enforcement officials said no such organization has been found to exist, and search efforts turned up no trace of the boys ever. $60 million, the bond. That's pretty remarkable, isn't it? $60 million bond. Also $60 million. That's what Michigan is getting in federal projects. The Selfridge fighter jets get a big boost. Also from, look, Michigan News Source is the best source for you. A dedicated group of reporters ferreting out the truth every single day. It's what we expect. And they do it every day. They do a great job. If you want to cover Dearborn, by the way, nobody's covered Dearborn more than Michigan News Source. Not more comprehensively, not more accurately. Every day. About all the things going on in Dearborn. Some you may agree with, some you may not. Some may not be of concern to you, but others are. They're big issues. And a big question about where this country is going. Now, Congress may have spent weeks deadlocked over the shutdown, but when Congress finally cut a deal, Michigan emerged with more than $60 million in federal funding to show for it. The biggest prize, $20 million for upgrades at Selfridge Air National Guard Base, preparing the Macomb County installation for the incoming F-15EX fighter jets. Lawmakers had sought more, $200 million from Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, the senators, and $90 million from John James, the congressman. However, the approved funding jumpstarts runway and infrastructure changes needed for the new squadron. The rest of the state's haul, $40 million, comes through Department of Ag portions of spending packages. Let's see, $3.9 million for infrastructure for water in Vicksburg, $3 million to modernize Michigan State University federal ag greenhouses. They need an update. $3.5 million to overhaul the Alpena Community College Natural Resources Center. $2.25 million for Armada Township's fire station expansion. $2 million for the food bank in Eastern Michigan's new distribution facility. $2 million for a new Mason County Road Commission facility. $1.225 million for child care expansions, including Hemlock Public Schools and Central Montcalm Public Schools. And about $1.15 million for new emergency vehicles, including fire trucks for Berkeley and Putnam Township, and a plow truck for Ontonagon. So a lot of funding coming to Michigan as a result of the money coming out after the shutdown. 43 days into oblivion. 43 days of oblivion is what that was. Didn't really get us anywhere. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about suppressors on your rifles. Hearing protection. That's what my next guest says, Knox Williams. Hunting seasons are open across the country right now in many places, including Michigan. It's firearm deer season, as you know. Would you use a suppressor if it would protect your hearing? My answer is absolutely I would. I'll take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. little bit of breaking news here. X is offline for some unknown reason. X not functioning. You can call it Twitter if you'd like, but I'll call it X. It's not functioning right now. I don't know if it's localized, but I've talked to a number of people who say they're having the same problem. I don't know why that is. And so there it is. All right, November 15th, since the earth cooled, has been opening day for firearm deer season in Michigan. I mean, as long as I've been alive, November 15th. This is the first time, by the way, it landed on a Saturday, first time in 11 years. Opening day came on a Saturday. And look, I will tell you this. I wish when I was younger, and I hunted a lot. I hunted professionally, for those of you who don't know. I hunted professionally for 25 years. I wish I had taken a lot better care of my hearing. That's for sure. My next guest says it's imperative. Knox Williams is the executive director of the American Suppressor Association. Knox, welcome to the program.
Steve, thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, huh? I'm kidding. But my ears do ring constantly. I wish when I was younger I'd been smarter about taking care of my hearing. Shotguns, rifles, all of it. We fired a lot. We spent a lot of time in the field and never paid a lot of attention. I didn't when I was younger to hearing protection. I wish I had, because I've paid a price for that. Now, a suppressor, which is not a silencer, this is not Hollywood, but a suppressor can certainly cut down on the decibels and the blast and the report of certainly a rifle when you're hunting deer, can it?
Absolutely. And you're spot on. You know, guns are loud to the point that exposure to a single gunshot can and will lead to permanent and irreversible hearing damage. And suppressors are a very effective tool at mitigating that noise at the source, which makes shooting and makes hunting a much safer experience.
Yeah, so what are you advocating for? Because, you know, those on the left would have you believe these are silencers and it'll lead to crime and this and all sorts of mythology, which that's what it is, mythology. It's not real. Same people that told us that if we legalized concealed carry, there'd be gunfights in the street every day. Of course, that hasn't happened. Crime has gone down because an armed society is a polite society, generally speaking. What are you advocating for? What do you think should be the use of suppressors going forward, whether it's hunting or anything else?
Yeah, so our goals are pretty simple. We think that all law-abiding Americans should be able to own and use suppressors for any lawful purpose in all 50 states. So that's being able to own a suppressor, being able to use them in the field while hunting, and we don't think that they should be heavily regulated or included in the National Firearms Act, the federal legislation that passed in 1934 that has regulated these things for the past 91 years. Thankfully, we just helped get rid of the tax through President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Effective January 1st, you will no longer have to pay $200 to buy these hearing protection devices to the government. But, you know, this is a fight that we've been having for the past 14 years. We spent several years on the ground in Michigan, actually, advocating for the use of suppressors while hunting. In February of 2016, we were successful in a 4-1 vote getting the Natural Resources Commission to approve the use of suppressors in the field by hunters in Michigan. Interestingly, if memory serves, the one dissenting vote, I believe, was in a relationship with a Michael Bloomberg anti-gun Everytown lobbyist. So, you know, that was a foregone conclusion. But, you know, 4-1 is still a pretty overwhelming majority for that.
So, you know, because here's the thing. They line up against suppressors, they being those that are anti-gun to begin with, for the most part, or ones that are in a tight election and think, well, if I say yes to this, it'll look like I'm a pro-gun, whatever. Any chance of getting this through in Michigan? And what about other states? Are suppressors legal in some places and not in others?
Yeah, so we did get it through in Michigan. Currently, you can own a suppressor in 42 states. You can hunt with a suppressor in 41. And over the course of the tenure of our organization, we helped legalize them in 3 states for ownership: Iowa, Minnesota, and Vermont. We helped legalize them in 19 states, including in Michigan, for the use while hunting. So we've got a lot of experience doing that. And it's actually an issue that's not always a partisan issue. We've had a tremendous amount of support from Democratic lawmakers and regulators supporting the issue because it's just good science. You know, obviously that's not going to help us break through in places like New York State or Illinois or California, which is why we're involved in litigation to try and legalize them in those remaining states. But there has been a tremendous amount of movement. But you're right, the anti-gunners have really dug in their heels. And the best argument that they have is willful ignorance at best, and propaganda really more so at its core.
Yeah. So where do we need to go from here then? 41 states you can hunt with, 42 states you can use them. What, in Michigan where I am, I don't have a suppressor. Are they expensive? Do I have to fill out extra paperwork? Do I have to do a background check? What are the rules?
Yeah, so in order to purchase a suppressor, you filled out what's called a Form 4 with the ATF. And that basically it's very similar to the same form that you use when you purchase a firearm at a gun dealer. Up until January 1st, when the new law takes effect, you do have to pay a $200 transfer tax. That's been on the books since 1934. It's a complete deterrent to try and stop people from buying these things. But nonetheless, beginning January 1, you won't have to pay that. The ATF currently takes several days to process that paperwork. Then they get it back to your dealer, and you can pick it up. They're basically running the exact same background check that they run anytime you buy a rifle, pistol, or shotgun. A lot of people think it's some super secret, intensive background check. It's not. It's literally a FBI NICS check, which is the same thing that happens when you purchase a normal firearm. From our perspective, suppressors are a wonderful tool. There's really no reason not to use them when you're in the field. Despite that, we know 70 to 80% of hunters never wear hearing protection. Steve, question for you. When you hunt, do you wear earplugs or earmuffs?
I don't. Nope, I don't, and I should. I made the mistake once I was in a ground blind, a cloth blind, in Africa, actually, and I touched off the rifle, and the muzzle was not out the window of the blind. Ouch. Just because it was not unsafe. Just terribly, terribly loud. And I think my ear's been ringing ever since, Knox. I got to leave it there. I greatly appreciate it. Where can people find you online real quick?
AmericanSuppressorAssociation.com. But to your point, I think our website is actually down at the moment because of the cloud outage.
Yeah, it's Cloudflare, folks. I'll tell you more about that after the break. Knox, thank you for being here. Come back anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Greatly appreciate it. There you have it. Protect your hearing, folks. Trust me, my ears ring constantly. And it's from hunting and shooting guns. And playing the drums and screaming like a ninny, that sort of thing.
Think we
All right, so here I'm getting the rundown here on what's happening. The Jeffrey is filling me in on the background of this outage. It's not just X, it's a whole host of things being affected by Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a server, apparently. And here's a Cloudflare system status. We have made changes that have allowed Cloudflare Access and Warp to recover error levels for Access and Warp users have returned to pre-incident rates. We have re-enabled Warp Access in London. We are continuing to work toward restoring other services. Apparently, we're not fixed yet. The issue has been identified and a fix is being implemented. During our attempts to remediate, we have disabled Warp Access in London. Users in London trying to access the internet will see a failure to connect. That's what we're seeing here in the United States as well. So basically, there are three major services, my understanding. It's one of them. You have, where did he write this? You have three of them, anyhow.
Didn't AWS also, just a week or two ago, had a really big outage?
Yes. Basically, there are three DNS services in the world: Google, AWS, and Cloudflare. So there you have it. You got one of the three, Anthony. So there's trouble. Trouble. Is it a hack? I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. Chagas disease is on the rise. There's a rare bug spreading a serious parasite, and most people don't even know they have been bitten. Chagas disease, spread by the kissing bug, was long considered a distant problem, but cases have recently been detected here in the United States, California, Texas, Arizona, Louisiana, and Florida, among others. Early signs: fever, rash, fatigue, swollen lymph nodes. Yet over time, the disease can bring severe heart damage, digestive dysfunction, even death. Not to fear, the wellness company's Parasite Cleanse, compounded of ivermectin and mebendazole, is an easy solution. Ivermectin paralyzes and kills parasites by disrupting their nervous system, while mebendazole starves them by blocking glucose absorption. The potent combination delivers broad-spectrum defense against intestinal and tissue parasites. Each kit is doctor-prescribed, compounded in the United States, tested for potency, and represents the gold standard. So, fill out an intake form. Get a bottle of 90 capsules, quick and easy to do. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber will save you $60 and you'll get free shipping. Don't be injured by parasites. twc.health/Gruber. Promo code Gruber, save $60 and get free shipping. Tim Young is next. Don't go anywhere. All right, major disruptions worldwide now because of this Cloudflare outage. X is down, which is too bad. My next guest is huge on X. He's got over 1 million followers. And, you know, usually when he comes on, it boosts my following because he's a big deal. Tim Young's a comedian, host, speaker, author, and an overall good guy that I've gotten to know real well over the past couple of years. Tim, welcome back to the program.
Well, no boost today.
Yeah, no boost today. We're boostless. We got nothing.
We're boostless.
Yeah,
I'm worthless without the internet. You know that. It's just there's no value in my guest appearance on the show anymore.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, Tim. Good talking to you. All right. Next. No, I'm kidding, of course.
Fair.
I'm transactional like Trump. Either you're good for me or get the hell out. Anyhow, let's talk about this. How about Epstein? Larry Summers apparently was getting dating advice from Jeffrey Epstein over several years. Larry Epstein, of course, one of the guys behind Center for American Progress, a big outspoken Trump hater, big Democrat contributor and everything. Careful what you wish for, Democrats, because people like Larry, the former president of Harvard, in big trouble now for looking like complete fools. What do you say?
Well, I mean, if you want to trap a woman, I think Jeffrey Epstein's probably the person to talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, you also have Stacey Plaskett, who was actually actively texting him, why is she not expelled from Congress yet? I go on and on over and over again about Republicans were able to get behind expelling George Santos, who lied and had financial crimes. Okay, every member of Congress basically has financial crimes that I know, and they all lie. So if you can get rid of him, you now have a sitting member of Congress who represents the Virgin Islands, by the way, which is very convenient because that's where Epstein Island was based. A lot of people don't put that together. So you have the representative from the Virgin Islands where, it's part of the archipelago there. That's a big word for your listeners. And you can't, I had to look it up the other day, to be honest. You can't have her continue to be there. You can't say that Trump was in cahoots, and you keep showing the same picture from 45 years ago of Trump, who takes pictures with everyone.
Exactly.
With Jeffrey Epstein to try to link them together. When you have an actual member of Congress reading his texts and asking the questions that he asked, and then him telling her she did a good job. Why is she still there?
Well, how many more of those sorts of things are you going to see? Look, the Democrats cherry-picked 3 emails out of about 23,000. Say, look, Trump had a victim that he spoke to for a long time. It was Virginia Giuffre, or however you say her name, doesn't matter. She's passed now. She committed suicide earlier this year, we're told. But she wrote in her book, Donald Trump treated me professionally and politely. No issue here. There's nothing here for the Democrats. In fact, I played a clip here of Donald Trump in 2015, right after he announced his run for president, and he was talking about Prince Andrew. We don't have to call him Prince anymore, by the way. We call him Mr. Windsor. And Bill Clinton, what problems they had with Jeffrey Epstein and the cesspool of an island. I mean, Donald Trump has put this out there since before he was elected the first time. There's nothing here for them.
Look, they're trying to link him to this pedo ring, and we all know that Trump bought the Miss World pageant so he can be around adult women, and I'm cool with that, and I think that's a great strategy for him. There's nothing Trump. He got women. He's not Bill Clinton, who's a creep. He's not who has a history of assault.
27 flights.
Yeah, and then the pile of everyone who's there. I also listen. I caused a stir yesterday on X when I was talking about there's a new commercial out. Suddenly there's a commercial with 4 of the victims. God bless them, and what they went through was terrible. But where were they over the past 4 years? Where were the people making these commercials over the past 4 years? Oh, it's convenient now because and they rushed to put this together because Donald Trump, quote unquote, may or may not be in there. He's not in there.
No, he's not in there.
But I'm so tired of seeing victims trotted out. If they are, I don't know exactly who the 4 women are in this commercial. To try to knock Donald Trump when Trump wasn't involved at all, and it's exhausting. CNN ran it. All of these people were running cover for it because my comment that caused a stir on the internet yesterday, got about 5 million views, was why don't they just name names? Just name
them. Well, CNN, it's cute, Tim. Every time CNN talks about this, we just want to emphasize that Donald Trump's not been accused or charged with any crime. I mean, they're falling over themselves because they don't want $1 billion lawsuit like the BBC is facing from Donald Trump. It's remarkable how they put the stories out there and then put a disclaimer that's longer than the story. Right. Well,
listen, they say that they can't talk because they have these NDAs, but NDAs are not legally binding if you're covering up for crimes. There's no court in especially sex crimes. There's no court in America who would hold you to an NDA with a criminal at all, period. So they can say whatever, and if CNN really wants to break the story, they could have these women talk, and they have the money in their corporation to defend them if something comes up.
Absolutely true. But why is it, though? I mean, I see all these people, one of your favorites like JoJo from Jurors and these other, maniacs on internet screaming that Trump's a pedophile and he ran a child sex ring and so forth. Chris Murphy, the senator, said that exact thing, that child section was Donald Trump was in the center. How do these people not get sued? I mean, I would go after Chris Murphy with a vengeance, wouldn't you?
Well, did he say it on the floor of Congress? Because if he says it on the floor of Congress,
No,
it's
he
the only
said it in some private place.
Well, then yeah, no, then they should all be sued. I think Trump should just have an entire wing of his private business that he obviously doesn't have a handle on constantly. I think that'd be really fun.
I think that'd be the right thing to do, no question about it. I mean, look, you can't just sit there. He's the center of a child pornography and pedo ring. You can't do that. That's crossing a line that, I mean, you're disparaging people, and there's no facts to support any of it. Nothing. It's just like the Russian collusion thing all over again.
And again, these Democrats are talking about the creeps and stuff. Did you see that old man on the plane from California, that old Democrat rep with his mouth gaping, like drooling?
Yeah, look into the pornography. Yeah.
Hey, look, you're on X as much as me. My For You tab that they're now claiming, he's got tons of porn. There was nothing, and I've never had that problem in my For You tab where there's lots of, and nor when I'm on a plane, if something like that comes up, am I going to leer at it? I quick get it off my screen.
Yeah, no, I've never had that come up in my For You feed either. Weird. I haven't had pornography come up yet, but maybe it's early. I have no idea. It's just it's remarkable.
Never
so the
too
vote's
early
going to be
for porn.
today. The vote's going to be today. They're going to release whatever the file is, the list, whatever. It's all coming out, isn't it?
Yeah, and I just think that at the same time that they release it, that they should release some members from Congress. Again, Stacey Plaskett, you have I can't beat the drum enough. You have an active member of Congress who is actively texting Jeffrey Epstein and taking orders from him. How is she still there? How is she still there?
Why was she? Exactly. I agree with you. They should be tossed out. I mean, you're right about Santos. If he's out, she's out. But, Republicans don't behave that way. They'll sacrifice their own. What was the last time a Democrat member of Congress got tossed out for any reason, right? Anti-Semitic comments, staring at pornography, taking feeds from Jeffrey Epstein to ask questions during a committee hearing. None of it matters, does it?
Pay to play schemes. No, nothing matters at all. But listen, I'm really excited. I really hope that this time when they release the files, they aren't empty binders given to goofy influencers.
Yeah, that was not a good look either, by the way.
No.
Tim.
Happy birthday, Pam Bondi.
Yeah, happy birthday to you. Tim, when X is functioning again, I expect it will be at some point. I'm sure that Cloudflare will work at some point. Where do people find you and hear what you have to say?
Well, right now it's on the streets if X isn't working, but Tim runs his mouth on X, and you'll see a lot of people screaming at me and victim blaming or whatever they claim that I'm doing because I told these women they should just release the names. Just say the names. If you can do a commercial, you can say the names.
Absolutely. Say the names if it's real. Tim Young silenced. He'll be on a street corner somewhere in Texas with one of those little bullhorns for the rest of the day. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate it. Still to come, Ivy will be here to talk about Ivy things. We'll be right back. All right, cloud flare. Apparently, that's a big problem right now. Cloud flare is just flaring out. X is down. One of my listeners sent me a note in a panic. His trail cameras that were supposed to be sent, they're not working today. He's in a panic. Anyhow, Ivy, how are you today?
Good morning. What a tragedy. I mean, that would be, if you're really looking for something, that could cost you a big deer.
Yeah, I bought those cameras. They're supposed to go to my phone. I never got them to work right. So I just sit here blind, deaf and dumb, doing my best. Anyhow, Cloudflare, apparently there's just 3 systems, Google, AWS, and Cloudflare. And as Anthony pointed out here a moment ago, AWS had a big problem last week. So I just have to say, are they getting hacked, or is there something else going on? Apparently, according to this article that you sent me, Ivy, there's been 4 attempts by Cloudflare that, we've got it fixed. And they don't have it fixed. 4 attempts so far and still trying.
Yeah, it really actually displays how vulnerable the system is in terms of online affairs. I actually tried to access another account that we have. It did not work because it kept like bouncing back saying Cloudflare issue, and you have a massive online platform like X, that goes down, and countless other, I'm sure, services or companies that are used Cloudflare. Say that like 10 times fast, by the way.
Try that.
My goodness. It's a
well, the reason we bring on Tim Young and other people, Tim Young has like 1.2 million followers on X. Hey, when he comes on, we get boost. We get introduced to new people. Today, I got nothing. Nothing. I'm going to send him a note. Hey, thanks a lot, Tim. I got nothing.
Yeah, well, but again, you think about just how vulnerable that system is in terms of, the online platforms. And then you just wonder, like, how vulnerable are we in terms of our grid and our electricity? And, all of a sudden, if you're just completely in the dark with being able to access even your bank account, what if Cloudflare had your banking on it and then you couldn't access it and you had no idea how much money you have or didn't have, or... Well,
I just saw a guy here post that he was going to put in for his time off at Christmas, and he said, well, I can't get through to the HR department on the internet, so I guess I'm not getting a Christmas vacation or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but... Right. Banking is a problem.
Sure.
General connection to the world can be a problem.
Exactly. When we live in such an online world where everything is so interconnected online, I mean, these sorts of things are troubling for sure.
Yeah, let me see. Are we up? Oh, we're up. SteveGruber.com's working just fine for those of you keeping score at home. I had to go check. We're good. Yeah, that's good news, right?
Different server, although I don't know exactly where ours is currently, but not with them.
Yeah, there you go. Anyhow, what else is on your mind today as we sit here? 27 degrees this morning, again, cold. I don't know. What's going on?
Well, what happened this weekend? Did you regale the stories of your hunting weekend?
My hunting weekend, I have not regaled anybody with these stories of my hunting weekend. No, a little bit. I mean, we were out. We saw 40 deer. Ivy and I got to sit together for the first time in a long time. We used to do it all the time when we were making television shows for the Outdoor Channel. Haven't done it in a while. It was great. We saw 40 deer. We said, meh. No.
Nothing we really wanted.
Well, it was warm. We might have taken a doe or two, big does, because that's how we feed the family. But too warm. I like to make sure it's good and cold before I go through that. I don't want anything bad. We're very particular about our meat and our food around here. Very important.
I shot guns and things like that, skeet shooting and things like that when I was growing up. I never really hunted before I met you. And that's one of the things I actually fell in love with, is like the field to table. You know where it comes from. You handle it yourself.
That's right.
A lot of the time you're cleaning it yourself. We have a great processor that we work with, but in some cases, you do process animals yourself. So
but,
it's
I was sharing
it's very
this
rewarding.
I was sharing this with somebody else here a couple of days ago. Our processor, and they do about 600 deer a year, and they do a fabulous job. You're right about that. And but the horror stories of what come in of deer that have been cleaned, still have the heart and lungs, still have the guts are partially taken out, partially not taken out. I'm like, do people not actually know how to? Apparently they don't. A lot of people don't know how to do it.
Yeah, when you're a new hunter, it's like you've been doing this since you were a child. So.
Yeah, my father taught us all well.
Yeah.
Me and brother Shane, we can clean deer. Shane cheats now, though. He's got a front loader on his tractor. If it's at his farm, he just raises it in the air. He says, so easy. They just drop out. I said, well, that's cheating. He says it is not.
Hey, if you had the equipment, you would probably use it too. So.
I might. You're right about that. Anyhow, no, It's been a good season. And, for some places, though, EHD took out big swaths of deer population. It's a hemorrhagic disease, of course, that kills deer. And one of the conversations I'm seeing online right now of Michigan hunters is CWD. They talk about it all the time. I don't see deer sick with CWD. I see deer sick with EHD. It kills them. CWD, I don't care about. They killed all these deer to study them. EHD.
Yeah, what's that?
Epizootic hemorrhagic disease. I think I got it right. Hard to say, but I think I got it right. They bleed internally. It's a terrible thing. They horrible death.
Yucky.
And they get down to skin and bones before they die. They get all disoriented. It's just awful. And so for some places here,
what causes that? Just a disease in the environment?
It's in the environment, and it happens. You see these outbreaks during drought years, and what you hear is people find all these big bucks dead around ponds that are way down in water level because the organism lives there apparently.
Interesting.
So I don't want to say that 3 times or 5 times fast either. By the way, I'll just say EHD.
Just go with the EHD, yeah.
Yeah, it kills a lot. It didn't happen here, thankfully. I mean, we have deer. We have so many deer here. We could feed a lot of folks, and we will, because we got a couple other folks. Hey, can you kill a doe for me? Sure, I can do that. Tags. I got tags. Lots of tags. So does Ivy. So we're set up for that, right?
What do you think is going to happen with this whole Epstein files thing? When I think about this, it's kind of annoying because darn for sure that over the last 4 years when Biden was in office, that if they had any dirt on Trump, they would have actually released it.
And amplified it and talked about it. Yeah, there's nothing there on Trump. There's nothing there.
Right, and then there's a bunch of people saying online, well, the Republicans are, washing it, redacting all the Republicans' names so that, they don't have to be held accountable. And I'm like, are you
Bill
guys
Gates,
kidding me?
careful what you will. Maybe that's why the internet's down. Bill Gates is canceling the internet so that his pictures can't be spread around. I don't know. We'll find out later today when the vote happens. Ivy, thank you. Love you.
Love you.
All right. Final thoughts after this. All right, here is your science lesson of the day. Because we were talking about it, so I'll just give you this. Epizootic hemorrhagic disease, that's what EHD is. I had it pretty close, didn't say the word very well. Epizootic hemorrhagic disease of white-tailed deer caused by an infection of a virus. It's not a bacteria. I thought it was a bacteria. It's a virus spread by a midge fly, I believe. It's been found in not just whitetails, but mule deer, elk, pronghorn antelope, and other animals. But it's really hard on the deer populations, especially here in Michigan. There are some pockets where people said 90% of the deer are gone. And the deer that die the soonest, usually the bigger bucks, because they're getting to the point in the year where they're starting to rut, and those high-end deer that start to rut, they lose all their body fat. They lose their minds trying to find a date, and therefore they get run down, and they're the ones that go down the quickest. It's often called blue tongue, but that's incorrect. Blue tongue is closely related and has similar clinical signs, but is a different disease. Blue tongue, when I was in Montana living, we would have blue tongue outbreaks, and they call it blue tongue for the very simple reason the tongue would hang from the deer's mouth and have a blue hue to it. Anyhow, so real problems with EHD, not just here in Michigan, but throughout different places that had drought conditions this year. You see it happen in years where you have drought conditions, and so therefore it can have great devastating effects. Now, having said that, I was talking to one guy here a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago actually. He'd had a die-off in his farm, but 2 miles away, the deer population was unaffected. So what will happen? They will migrate into his place, and next year he should probably be okay. Maybe not the big high-end bucks that he's hoping for, but the fact is Mother Nature has a way of correcting these issues. That's why does throw twins all the time, and on some occasions they'll even throw triplets if an area has been depleted of deer numbers. It happens. So there you have it. There's your scientific update. EHD, it's a virus passed by the midge fly. Really shows up during drought years. There it is. You're welcome. There's your education for the day. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. Remember, work harder and be better.